Hi everyone, this is lecture 9 of PTRE 475, World Completions and Advanced Stimulation Techniques. So, last time I recorded a shorter lecture privately from my office where I finished module 1 and I went over homework 1 and I uploaded it. Uh, It should be here, lecture 8, basically. And yeah, I should be saying, sorry. It didn't say on the announcement that I went over homework 1, but I went over the document and the assignment, basically. And today's goal is one, answer any questions in regards to the homework, because this is the last lecture before the homework is due. We are still available via email, me and the TA, but and if it's something urgent, I can set up a private Zoom meeting. But if there is any questions, that's a good opportunity. Two, I will go over the term paper, which is due the last day of class, which is May 7th. And three, we are going to start module 2 with whatever time is left. So let's see. Yeah, I did finish the lunch with the industry partner. Like it was literally 1:30 when we got up to leave from the Blue Moose. So it was like there wasn't any chance I would have caught the class. So I just came over, sat into my office. Every room was taken, every classroom was taken. I sat into my office and I recorded, but I didn't know it would be, generally it goes faster if you don't have audience. So I covered more material than what I expected. So I had to cut the lecture short, basically. But yeah, the homework is due on Monday night, which is a holiday, President's Day, 1 minute before midnight. Make sure you submit it on time. Is there any questions on the homework?
So not yet from my end.
Yes, sir. Oh, you said no questions from your end?
Yeah, as of yet. Yep.
Donald, any questions?
I haven't started it yet.
Okay. So basically, you have to build a polygon and add some lines to it and see the region between those lines. And it's an extra line. So what we saw on the module, the picture that we saw, you have to add an extra line to it. And that would be it, basically. And you read the range of SH max on the vertical axis, and you give it to me in PSI per foot. That's about it. Okay, so let's see the term paper, which is a big part of your grade, actually. I added it in the assignments. I added it as an assignment. So if you go, it says, okay, homework 1, and then I have on top of it term paper, due May 7th, 1 minute before midnight. If you open the document, you're going to see the prompt, the instruction set, basically, the document instructing what is this paper about. And generally speaking, I would say I know the two people online are close to graduation, so they are high seniors. And there is some people who are like early graduate students in the class as well. So let's just say the average level of that of the student in this class is something between a senior and an early master student, something like that. So it's at this point in your just before your career starts, let's say, that you have to start basically, you have enough knowledge to start thinking on how to impact the state of art. And you should be able to have the ability to come up with a research question, a hypothesis that can be tested, that potentially, hypothetically speaking, you can write a thesis on it. I mean, the thesis is a Greek word. Thesis means position, a stance, right? You are making a statement about something and you are backing it up, okay? You are making a claim that you back scientifically. So in this case, you are going to have to write a term paper, and it's not like the term papers that you see in other classes that generally is pretty much literature review, getting stuff that other people did and putting them together. This is more, there is a literature review part, obviously. You have to do a good literature review on a topic. And you cannot discuss a topic without knowing what has been done already on that topic. But the most important part of this assignment, which I'm going to discuss the details later, is formulating a hypothesis. And the hypothesis is a one sentence, starts with the word if most of the times. And it's something that I can agree or disagree with. And hypothetically speaking, you can do research on that and with the resources that are available to you and come up with a proof or disproof of a hypothesis. At this stage, I have to say that disproving a hypothesis is not a bad thing. It's possible. I did disprove a hypothesis in my master's thesis back when I was in Texas 10 years ago. I made a hypothesis, I tested it experimentally, and I found that this is not the case. Still, I graduated, still, I wrote a thesis, still, I published it to a peer-reviewed journal. It's not a bad thing to say that a hypothesis is disproved. It's just you need to back it scientifically. You are not expected in this case to do the work. You are not gonna do it. It's just like putting a logical and how do you say it, like a hypothesis that you can easily test. Don't tell me something like, oh, I can build a structure with lasers and multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art equipment that we don't have, and I'm gonna make high precision measurements of the, I don't know, deformation taking place when you are loading, I don't know, a rock code. No, this is not a good hypothesis. This is, first of all, not a hypothesis. What are you testing necessarily? And it's not even something that is attainable. You cannot come and say, for instance, to your professor, oh, I'm going to come and do a master's degree with you. I will write a master's thesis, and I'm expecting you to bring this equipment, blah, 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 blah. No, this is not something that is going to happen. What generally happens when you start your master's degree is that you sit down with your advisor and you guys discuss what you want to work on, more or less what is going to be your research about. You get an idea and you start automatically structuring the thesis, how your thesis will look like in your head. And the best students are going to start working on this stuff immediately. So after the first meeting with your advising professor, you are going to be able to hit the ground running with some of the stuff. For instance, how will your thesis look like? It's going to be something like chapter 1, introduction. Chapter 2, literature review. Chapter 3 is, some people call it methodology. Methodology is a bad word. Every time I see a paper that has subheading methodology, it's virtually everyone, it's a bad paper, you know? Because methodology really means a study of the methods. It's not a, this is like your either methods and approach chapter. It can be called experimental approach if it's an experimental work that you are doing, or experimental design, or model development, or methods and approach, or just methods, but not methodology. Methodology is like comparing different methods. Chapter 4 will be results. It could be results and discussion, depending on how big it is. Chapter 5 would be discussion. What do your results mean? What are the implications of them, etc., etc. Chapter 6 is conclusions. Conclusion, recommendations, future work, blah, blah, blah. Then you have references, glossary, vita, blah, 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 and then you are done basically. Now, as soon as you talk to your advisor and you decided what you are going to pursue, you can go home that first day and open your Google Drive or your where you keep your phone, your files in your computer, and you can initiate documents for these first 2 chapters. Okay, you can start working on those from day 1. Okay, and more or less, this is what this term paper is focusing on. Is introductory stuff that other people have done, and stuff that you are planning to do. So a lot of people back in my day, a lot of people in the mid-2010s, mostly in the early 2010s, before the oil price collapsed, a lot of people have done a lot of computational models suggesting that if you orient the frac stages in a non-uniform fashion, you can get better resultant hydraulic fracture geometry. So if you have more, let's see, the horizontal lateral, excuse me. The horizontal lateral of your well, like this, the well, and then you have one stage here, one stage here, one stage here, one stage here. They are all uniformly spaced. It's called geometric spacing. Okay, geometric spacing, which is like the easy one, the more practical. And then I think there is the engineering spacing or something. I don't know how they call it, but the non-uniform, you may have them more here, and then further, and then further, more clustered towards the heel, or more clustered towards the toe. Like this one, yeah. And basically, there was a lot of people suggesting that non-uniform can do better than geometric spacing. So my hypothesis at the time was that is that non-uniform can do better than geometric. And then I designed experiments in transparent gelatin where we can observe visually the fracture growth. And I did a lot of experiments, and I saw the fractures from geometric spacing versus non-uniform spacing. And I could compare, and my result disproved the hypothesis I set for myself back in the day. same thing for you guys. I want you to make a hypothesis, this one sentence statement for your project. And then I want you to suggest, propose how you are gonna test. And this is where you need to know what you are gonna be talking about, okay? And you're gonna know what you're gonna talk about, what you're talking about when you know what other people have done in the past, what other people in your school have done in the past in your department, which is what is available, and generally speaking, what is possible with today's technology, etc., that is readily available to a student like you, like an early master's level student or a very high senior student who's just about to graduate and go on into the industry. Maybe you're gonna go and work as a design engineer for a service company. These are the stuff that you're gonna be worried about. Yeah. What I'm expecting is there is a certain structure that your report would follow, but I'm not very hard on that. It's just you have to show me. Well, it's good if you designate it, like literature review, proposed work, and then I want you to say hypothesis, and then your hypothesis is this statement. It's a one sentence, most likely starting with the word if. If I space my clusters, my frac stages, not uniformly, I will get more favorable, geometrically speaking, resultant multi-frac geometry, multi-frac growth, whatever it was called. One sentence. Hypothesis is like, in Greek, it means below your thesis, underneath your thesis, is what supports, is where your thesis is standing, basically. It comes before the thesis. Because after you have done the work, you can say with certainty, as much certainty as your work can provide or allows, I firmly believe that it's not worth it to spend your resources to come up with a non-uniform perforation, frac stage spacing patterns, because it's not worth it. They are not going to help the overall treatment. They are not going to give favorable results to make sense on the investment. So keep your money, use them on something else. Anyway, so let's see what I wrote here. In hard sciences, petroleum engineering included, quantitative research is divided into three branches. The first is the analytical branch, which involves derivation of closed-form mathematical models that describe natural phenomena and processes through symbolic manipulations. This is, for example, alpha plus beta equals gamma minus delta. You are making some mathematical manipulations, and you end up with an equation, okay? One equation, one mathematical solution that you derive analytically, pen and paper, pencil and paper. The second branch is numerical, which involves the use of algorithms for evaluating mathematical models with continuously varying variables. That is a lot of equations solved at the same time. This is what the simulators are doing. Whether a reservoir simulator, whether a geomechanical simulators, they all do the same thing. They solve a lot of equations at the same time. Back in my day, Saudi Aramco was bragging that it had the computational capacity to solve a billion equations. That means you can solve for a billion unknowns, billion with a B, which is very, very powerful. This is achieved mathematically again, but you don't use direct, explicit, as we call it, procedures. An explicit procedure is a derivation. You start from a certain point, you arrive to a different point. In this case, you have many equations. What you use is called numerical methods, like Gauss elimination, Gauss-Seidel, linear algebra stuff, matrices, matrix-related procedures, and LB decomposition, etc., etc. Those are powerful techniques. Okay, they can solve a lot of equations at the same time. And you cannot do it by hand. Okay, you are going to use a computer for that. You are going to write a code. This almost always incorporates using a computer to carry out numerical procedures, solving systems of multiple equations. The third is the experimental branch, which involves laboratory testing or field scale testing, actually, aiming at the development of empirical correlations. That means I go to the lab, I go to the field, I collect data at given conditions. I have my data points, I come to the office, I have the data points, and then I try to fit lines on those data points. And then when I'm trying to predict the future, I use the equation of those lines, those correlations. The thing is that it's not always the same conditions. The data is collected from one set of conditions, and then it's implemented, it's applied to another set of conditions. There might be significant discrepancy between the two sets of conditions that will make the data invalid, actually, for the current scenario. Like I make the measurements at an ordinary well, and then I try to apply them, the correlations derived from those measurements, to a geothermal well that has very high temperature. They might not align. So those correlations from the first well may not give me the right answer. A well-designed research and development project usually incorporates at least two of the aforementioned branches. Most of the students, when you hear them talking about their projects, and if the projects are good projects, solid projects, there are bad students, there are bad professors, there is everywhere this thing. But so I'm not saying that every project that you will hear is like this, but the best projects use at least two of those branches. If you are writing a model, you need to verify it analytically, or a numerical model, I mean. Or if you are using doing experimental measurements, we need to see how far off they come from analytical predictions or numerical predictions, etc., etc. Literature review and the formulation of a problem statement along with a hypothesis are very important steps at the beginning of a research project. The success of many master's theses is often dependent on the power of their literature review, which is usually chapter 2. Many good master's theses receive the majority of their citations from their solid literature reviews. Good graduate students begin working on their literature reviews as soon as they finalize their research topic with their supervising professor and keep improving and polishing it all throughout until the very end of the project, which is the submission of their thesis or the associated journal article. That is, it's a never-ending process. It's not like a homework where, okay, I found the right answer, end of story. I stop here. I did my job. I will go to the bar for a drink with my friends. I will move on, start working on the other class homework, and so on. This is a process that doesn't have an end. It can be improved, and you have to improve it until your supervising professor says the quality is sufficient and the contribution is also sufficient and the novelty to mandate a master's degree to be awarded for this. The work that you have done. So it's the old saying that an old advice that somebody gave to a professor from A&M. He said, you start your PhD and you start writing from day one. If you don't have anything to write acknowledgements to your parents or something. In the master's thesis, there is a place for acknowledgements. And even if you don't have anything to write today, you can write acknowledgements to your parents or something. So you make it a habit that you write something every day, or you improve something every day, or that you edit something every day. So you go to your advisor, put everything on his desk. It was old days. Okay, is it good enough for me to graduate? No. Fix this, fix that, do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. You take it, you go back, you fix, you do what he said, you bring it back. Is it good enough now? No, you still need to do this, do that, do this, blah, blah, blah. Take it, go back. Eventually, it's going to be okay. And you are going to have passed the threshold that is necessary to graduate. That's how it is. It becomes better and better every day. It doesn't become worse. When I was a young master student, I switched advisors. And when I switched advisor, I did almost a whole year of preliminary work in the lab. And I went home for Christmas. I decided what would be my hypothesis. I finalized what would be my hypothesis. I finalized an experimental plan, a set of experiments that I want to do to check the results. I went back home. I came from Europe at the end of Christmas. I started working on it, and I think it took me 40 days, only 40 days, to do the experiments. I was doing experiments in the morning, and after I was finishing, I was going to a bar cafe that we had in Austin. That was very nice. It was open until midnight. So I was working on the thesis, and then so I was doing experiments in the morning, working on the thesis at night. In 40 days, I was able to give a draft of my thesis to my advisors. It was like the last day before spring break. So they were able to review it during the break, blah, blah, blah. And when I came back, I was given their comments. I adjusted accordingly. I gave it back to them. They said it's okay. We should give it to my big supervisor, who at the time was the department chair. And he came up with his own comments. And then, but because it was a lot of sieving going through, everything that wasn't good was removed or fixed. So by the very end, it was a very good product. Or a product that was sufficient enough to give me my degree. Actually, that was a very nice semester, spring of 2016. Very productive. I think I read something like that year. I read a lot of books too, which is something I did last year also for some reason. Anyway, deliverables. This is what I'm expecting from you to have in your report. I would like to see them designated. So when I open the report, I want to see a place where it says, oh, problem statement, blah, 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 blah. And then in the problem statement, you have a section where it says the hypothesis tested is blah, blah, blah. I put it in a box or something as well, make sure that it's very visible. It's one sentence only. By the way, one thing that is important is that if you do more preliminary work, and you do a lot of reading, and you do a lot of understanding, and as you process those results when you start working, it's very likely that you will want to refine your thesis, your hypothesis. This is 100% okay. It's 100% okay. There is no problem changing your hypothesis as you go through your research work for your degree. You set off for some experiments that are impossible. I mean, once you do experiments, when you start the experiment, you don't have any control on what goes on. So if the experiments don't give you results that are good enough for you to test the hypothesis, to say, yes, it's approved, or no, it's disproved, you need to change the hypothesis. That's very fine. No problem at all for that. Choose a topic related to your class theme. So for the undergrads, 475, they should choose something related to well completions. And graduate students, something related to stimulation techniques. It's important not to mix because that's the difference between the class, in the classes. You guys are gonna be doing different term paper. Don't choose a stimulation topic if you are in 475. Don't choose a well completion topic if you are in 575. However, as you can understand, there is a big overlap between those themes. So I think it would be easy to get something that has overlap. So if you are thinking of a topic that is more on the other side, talk to me, and I will see if it's possible to move it around a little bit and get it to the right point. That you would like to research, it's existing scientific literature with the goal of identifying a gap which you can hypothetically help fill. So that's important. You don't want to propose something that has already been tested. Maybe something that was tested in one way that you think can be tested in a different way and give different results, yes. But not a hypothesis that has already been tested. You need to be novel, okay? New, authentic. For instance, performing experiments in an attempt to validate or invalidate findings made by numerical modeling. So for instance, I was doing experiments to investigate a hypothesis that was formulated looking at computational models. So the computational model said that it's good to use non-uniform backstage space. My experiment said no. I tested them in a different way. Somebody can say, hey, the numerical models were for the field scale. At field scale, your experiments were lab scale. So there is big difference in the two. If we test it in the field, we might get more favorable results. And I would say, oh, if it's possible, yes. But then you need to go and find an industry partner who will drill a well and stimulate it the way that you say stimulate it and share the results with you. So it's unlikely that this is going to happen at master's level. But yeah, don't propose something that is impossible. But many things are possible, I have to say. Any deliverables you propose should be realistic and doable with the typical resources available to a UND PTRE student. You are expected to know the capabilities, strengths, and weaknesses of any resource you will mention using very well. So don't tell me, oh, there is this model, blah, 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 I read about it, anything you talk about, you need to know. And this is something that comes at the proposal stage. There is a stage, it's mostly for PhD level work, but sometimes it happens during masters. You do the proposal where you do basically present what is in this term paper for your research to your committee, and the committee asks you questions. And the worst thing that can happen to you during your proposal, is that a professor will mention a paper that has done the same thing as you are proposing, and you don't know about. So you haven't done good literature review. Another bad thing that can happen is that you propose something that is not possible with the equipment and the resources that you have available. It's what I was saying earlier. I mean, use what you have, but to use what you have, you need to know what you have very well. So don't spew out of your mouth or by writing different models that we heard about. I mean, to be able to use them and understand their limitations and capabilities and capacities. Anyway, I have it highlighted here. You have to discuss the topic of your choice with the course instructor and get his approval. That's me. And the reason you need to discuss it before and get my approval is to avoid tragic consequences, like you fail not because you did a bad job, but because you said yourself to fail. It's mostly to help, okay? It's mostly to help. It's not to provide criticism. I will try to adjust a little bit, make it more, make sure that it's something that has the potential to become a good term paper. So yeah, you need to be very pragmatic and realistic with this stuff. After reading on your selected topic, you will be able to write a report whose main body would be comprised by 4 main components. First is the problem statement, a short paragraph discussing the area in which there is room for development in the topic of your choice. It should be a narrow subtopic of your main topic of choice. Don't give me a paper. I'm going to investigate hydraulic fracturing optimization. It means a lot of stuff, or well integrity. It means a lot of stuff. From what standpoint are you investigating it? From what exactly? It's like something specific. It needs to be narrow. That's the thing with the hypothesis. It needs to be narrow enough to make sense. I'm not investigating well integrity. My hypothesis is not well integrity in CO2 wells. No, it's something specific. I'm investigating that if this happens, this would be the outcome. Or if I do this, I will get that. Or I will get that because of this. You need to do a lot of reading to come up with a good hypothesis. What is the problem you are trying to solve? Not how you will solve it. That will come later. For example, optimization of multiple hydraulic fracture geometries using non-uniform perforation cluster spacing. It's a subtopic of the hydraulic fracture optimization topic, broader topic. So there is hydraulic fracturing, hydraulic fracture optimization, hydraulic fracture optimization with non-uniform perforation cluster space or frac stage space, etc., etc. We narrow down. Literature review, that will be the biggest part of your term paper. This will be the biggest component of your report. Arrange the literature review with a logical sequence. i.e. subsections per area, discussing the main developments in that area, perhaps in a chronological order, if that makes sense. It doesn't always make sense. But use your common sense to structure this in an efficient manner that makes it easy for the reader. I mentioned it earlier, the best master's thesis, they have very, very strong literature reviews, very strong literature reviews. And they are structured at a certain way that suits them. And this is something that also when I was writing my master's thesis, I was playing a lot with the structure of the literature review. I was thinking maybe this is the way I should structure it. Then I was changing my mind. This is better way, try one thing, try another thing, and see which one makes more sense. And there is not one size fits, what do they say, most nowadays. It used to be one size fits all, and now it's one size fits most, which I guess suggests where the world is heading. But anyway, there is no guaranteed structure. It depends on the topic. You can structure it the way you want to structure it. Maybe you want to do mathematical work, analytical work, numerical works, and then experimental works. Structure it that way. Structure it chronologically. Structure it from big picture going narrower. That's a nice way of structuring it. Or maybe flip it to it like going broader. That depends on the topic, really. No one size fits most. Yeah, and you want to make it efficient for the reader because the reader will learn by reading your work, right? He should be able to follow. Inside well, it could be after hypothesis actually should be after the literature review, but the way we structure it in the thesis is in the problem statement. In this case, let's have it after the literature review because this is how I structure your term paper in the way that you are gonna work on it. You will choose a topic, you will read about it, and then come with the hypothesis. So I structured it this way. But in real life, in your, say, master's thesis, hypothetically speaking, this is gonna be in your first chapter, the hypothesis. Chapter 1 that I wrote earlier on the right side of the screen. Hypothesis, one sentence starting with if, which defines that what can specifically be examined in this proposed research project. For example, if non-uniform perforation cluster spacing is used, the resultant multiple hydraulic fracture geometry can be optimized, minimizing stress shadowing. That was my hypothesis from 2016. And then you have a very important section called proposed work. A few short paragraphs zeroing on the area related to your subtopic where you identified that there is a gap and how you propose filling the gap. How are you planning to do this? You need to highlight the novelty and impact. This is very important. This is what everybody, every reviewer, every professor, seasoned professor is looking at. Novelty and impact. Novelty is something that is not done yet, hasn't been done yet. And impact is the implication, right? Is it worth my investment? Is it worth my time, my resources, if you will? Novelty and impact. I need to highlight the novelty and impact of the proposed work. Many times you send a paper for review and it comes back and they say lack of novelty. Okay? Somebody else has done it. must be new and not done before with tangible contributions to the field. Be as descriptive as you can on what you plan on doing. Plan in inverted commas because I don't expect you to actually do the work. You are going to propose work that is realistically possible to do. Well, this is what the professor wants to see. What results you expect to obtain and how you plan to progress from there. Good proposals in general, they are close-ended. You say, this is what I'm gonna do, these are the measurements I'm gonna do, this is the results I'm expecting to get, and this is how I will process them, and this is how I will use them to evaluate, disprove or approve my hypothesis. They want to see an end. They don't want like something open-ended. And also they need to be understanding that you're not going to start the project and then in 2 months come back and say, oh, I couldn't progress because this unexpected problem arose. You need to predict that problem and see how you are going to overcome it. Yeah. How you plan progressing from there. So this is the data I will collect, and this is how I will process it, etc., etc. Invalidation of your hypothesis or negative results are always a possibility. So you are expected to have a strategy on how you will adjust to this. Other components that your report should include, say direct submission through Save Assign. We're going to talk about plagiarism later. A title page with the appropriate information, class code and name, your title, your name, current semester. Main body comprised by 4 sections described earlier in this sequence. A nomenclature list with the symbols in the equation you included in the report if you did include any equations. A list of references at the back and any appropriate appendices. You are suggested to follow the UND style guide, but you do not have to do that. I'm not trying to force you into a certain template. That's why I'm not giving a real template. I just want you to know what I expect. Your report would be graded in its entirety, which includes language and grammar. English is important. It's as important as the math, actually. Math skills and English language skills are very important. Very important. I don't think I appreciated it when I was young, but I think I started appreciating it early enough compared to others. So I was able to make some gains on it. Many times there is works that are not very good, but they are very well written. And being well written makes up for sometimes what you are lacking in other ways. And yeah, generally, the people who made it far into their disciplines, they can speak well, and they have very, very good analytical skills. Very, very good analytical skills. You progress. Math is the front when it comes to the hard sciences. I mean, you can take a topic as far as math can take it, you know. Cheating or plagiarism will not be tolerated. Remember that no write-up is perfect. No matter how much editing you do, there is always room for development. Therefore, the more time you spend improving your report, the better it becomes. You guys know I used to be in SPs, the Way Ahead magazine, for a few years, from 2018 until 2022. I was the editor-in-chief for 2020 and 2021. But we were writing some articles, and the departments I was leading, we are known to write good articles, not write a lot of articles. It was like quality over quantity. And this is the threshold I had for myself, is that we will edit, re-edit, and then as we edit and we go along, we have less and less areas, gray areas on the article, gray in terms of improvement capability. And then we are left with only a few that I remember by heart because I have worked so hard on them, so much. I have dedicated so much time on this article that even when I'm driving on the street, I remember those sentences, few last sentences that with improvement. And eventually, once I tackled those, we are ready to go. There were cases that that has to do more with plagiarism, that people wrote bad articles, they tried to steal from here and there, merge it together, write an article, and people have reached out to the SP president at the time, the Society of Petroleum Engineers president, to complain about articles published in our site. And we had to take them down. Thank God I wasn't involved in those articles, but I was the editor in chief, so I got part of the blast, you know. It didn't hit me too much, but yeah, that's yeah. Make sure you spend effort on your work, make it as good as possible. I always tell my students when they say, I want to apply somewhere, but I don't think I'm gonna get it. I say, apply, do the best job, and lose the position because there was somebody better than you. Don't lose it because you didn't do a good job and you left performance on the table. Lose it because there was somebody better than you and they got the job, not because you do your job, make the best submissions that you can, and then it's not on you. It makes things much simpler this way. Anyway, speaking about SPE, SPE has a rule that I think has changed or will change very soon, is that when you send a paper for its journal, before it goes through peer review, they check it with a system called Authenticate Software. And if it's above, they generate, it goes through your text and identifies part that is similar to other works already on the internet. And if there is, it generates a similarity index. I think similarity index is the number of words that were flagged divided by the total number of words of the document times 100. There is a mathematical equation for that. So anyway, it generates this similarity index. And if it's larger than 20%, then the SPE sends it to you. I think if it's less than 15%, it's fine. If it's bigger than 15%, but less than 20, they review it and they decide. And then if it's higher than that, it's automatic rejection. What I do for this paper is that if I get a similarity index over 20%, your grade will be automatically deducted 10%, and you have to resubmit. So you resubmit, and the best you can do is 9. And if it's again the case, you resubmit again, and the best you can do is 80, and so on and so forth. And I had to do that in the first year I was teaching this class because I got 3 term papers. One had similarity index of 72%. The other one had similarity index of 76%. The other one had similarity index of 81%. there were some students that they thought that we were idiots, and copy pasted from here and there, put it together, and they gave it to me. And then the software highlighted the whole paragraphs. It was crazy. So I had to change them at the end of the semester. And it was my first semester here. Anyway. So you have to do it until the similarity index is below 20%. But you cannot recover the 10% if it's after the deadline. Now, it sounds harsh. So you guys don't have access to this software, Authenticate. I have access to it through my LSU account. I use it constantly for my own publications, because once you publish a few stuff, there is this thing called self-plagiarism that even if it's your work, you still need to cite it. Because it's your work, you're the author, but you're not the owner of the work. The owner of the work is the publishing house. As this software is not available to UND students, you can email me a draft version of your term paper before the deadline, anytime you want, and I will run it for you and send you the report. That's before the deadline. So you can make sure that it's less than 20% before the deadline. So you are not basically caught into that rule. So I'm giving you you have 100% chance to avoid this issue. Just email me the paper, and I will email me your draft, and I will email you back the report. And when I run it, I use the same settings that SP is using. No bibliography, no quotations included. And 1 second. Yeah, so you can know where it stands before you submit. So use this opportunity. You don't have to do it, but it will help. Now, if you go to lectures, there is a new folder that I should have had already. I forgot. It's called Useful Resources. I have 2 files in it. I have a file on the fundamentals of production engineering from, it's an equation sheet published by the University of Texas at Austin back in 2017, which is 9 years ago. Feels like yesterday. Dr. Balhoff, who's currently the chair there, had a student that was interning the summer for him, and it was like a 4.0 kind of student, very smart. I believe he went on to work for EOG. I don't know what happened of him, but he basically came up with equation sheets for every, he did drilling, production, reservoir, thermodynamics, petrophysics, and he even did another one that the relevant professor did not allow for it to be published, which is ridiculous, but I have the electronic copy of that as well. I was friends with this student, so he shared everything with me. We were in the Petrobol team together. But yeah, this could be helpful in this class. This is not a production class, but there is a strong overlap with production. So I gave you, in drilling, I gave you guys the drilling one. In production, I'm giving you guys the production. In completions, I'm giving you the production one. That's one thing. The second thing is an Authenticate report example. And it's related to what we have been talking about so far. Just to tell you how Authenticate report looks like, this is one of my old papers that I ran before submitting it for a conference to make sure that everything is okay. And you see, you run it into the system, and it flags the words that are basically similar to existing work online. and every source has a different color and given a different designation. So as you read through the paper, you see the parts that are flagged, and you need to go in there and break the chain. You need to paraphrase hard enough. Also, this is a smart system. It identifies chains of words. So a lot of times, it's the way you are writing something, the way we are, especially the foreign people, because they are thinking in a foreign language, and sometimes they are thinking in a foreign language, but it sort of influences the way they write. And sometimes it's good, it makes their writing more simple, and it's easier to follow. But anyway, you get a lot of words that are flagged, and then at the end of the report, it gives you a list of those. You see here, I did terrible, 31%, but I had 10% similarity with a certain work from this link. And then I had 8% similarity with my dissertation from LSU. It's my work, but still, you still need to paraphrase enough. And then I had another similarity with another paper with my advisor. And the rest is like 1%. So they are not that important. If I go back, and I did not publish this paper, I didn't submit it. But if I wanted to make it good for submission, I will go back and fix this, and this. Go see where I can paraphrase and move things around and make sure that it doesn't paraphrase and sign. Make sure you sign and paraphrase. You don't copy paste. That's the most important thing. So you need to break those chains. Yeah, and I wanted to. This is not to scare anyone. It's to make you guys understand that this is the tools in the disposal of the publishing houses, etc. And this is how they review the stuff. You have to go through them. If it's your first paper publishing, generally it's not an issue unless you are coming from somebody else. Once you have 2 or 3 papers published on a certain topic, it becomes harder and harder, But we don't want repeat works out there. We want novelty. That's why we need to be below that 20%. Yeah, so we have 2 months and 25 days until this project is due. Make sure you start working on it as soon as possible. I think if you can clear with me the topic as soon as possible so that you can start working on it. This is not something that can be done in 1 week or something. And I had calls last week of classes, or the second to last week of classes, with students telling me, can you give me an incomplete grade for the class and give you the project submission later? And the answer is no, because I have given you 2 months and 25 days. If there is an extension, I need to give an extension to everyone. Anyway, that about it with the term paper. Make sure, yeah, do a lot of thinking. Do a lot of thinking. Find something that makes sense, and then put it down on paper. And a lot of reading. A lot of reading. the better the literature review, the better the outcome. You need to go through a lot of works to understand what they are all doing and find the gap. There needs to be a gap that you should be able to fulfill. Now, for a PhD, the students need to do that 3 times, because the way the PhD dissertation is most of the times structured, the way my students structure it at least is chapter 1, intro. Chapter 2 is basically topic 1. That's like a whole master's thesis into 1 chapter. It has its own literature review, its own methods section, its own results, its own discussion, its own conclusions. Chapter 3 is topic 2. Chapter 4 is topic 3. Chapter 5, general conclusions. And of course, those 3 topics needs to be subtopics of a bigger topic that your dissertation is about. That's why PhD dissertations are slightly more broader than the master's thesis. It's like a PhD is like 3 master's theses that are interrelated. When I did my PhD, I had 6 topics. I had 6 papers because I transferred from one school to another, and they helped me. I didn't take that many classes when I transferred to the new school. I only took 2 classes from there. I should have taken something like 7, but I did. I ended up doing double the research work I had to do for the. So my dissertation was double in scientific content than what the other students were, which gave me the best dissertation of the year award. So I got an interest, I guess. I got something for my extra work, but I would say I enjoyed writing my master's thesis more than my PhD. It was the way the things ended was much more beautiful because when I started working, and you do experiments and the results are out of place, they don't make sense. And then eventually you start seeing things a little bit different, and you're like, okay, I can make it make sense if I refine my hypothesis a little bit. And one person who helped a lot with that is actually Dr. Richard Schultz, who was a research scientist at the time under my supervisor. And he helped me a lot when I was refining my hypothesis. And now we both ended up in North Dakota. But anyway, yeah, and also for you guys, I think this should be an enjoyable task. You are gonna read, choose a topic that you like. There certainly is a topic within well completions or within stimulation methods, techniques that you like. Identify that, get the okay from me, and start reading. And then we can structure your literature review, etc., in a certain fashion. Yeah, the more work you spend on this, the more likely it is that you're going to get a good grade on it. It's a bottomless task. That's why we started early, from almost 3 months to go. Any questions, boys?
Not that I could think of at the moment.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I guess I would call it a day. Let's call it a day. Have a nice weekend. Have a nice President's Day. Me and the TA are at your disposal. If you have any questions on the homework, please email me or email him, and will try to help. If it's like urgent, we can even arrange a Zoom call, a private Zoom call or something, but make sure that you reach out to us and don't miss the deadline for the homework submission, please. It's the last minute before midnight on Monday night. Thank you very much. Have a nice rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.